For an Overland set, this is pretty good. Crit, damage, and max magicka are always good, and ultimate generation on getting a crit, especially on a light armor set where your base chance is higher, is a decent buff, and you'll get a decent bonus to your next ultimate every 5 seconds. Worth it, especially for newer players, as it'll help with getting ultimates out when you're missing on light attack weaving. All in all, this is good for solo play. Free damage shield on a crit means you're going to get it a lot, and 2 lines of crit and 1 weapon damage is pretty good. If you want more survivability but can't yet get Ring of the Pale Order yet, this is a good thing to pick up. Note that it's not hard to run on weapons and jewelry and can be paired with something like Mother Sorrow for a strong, hard-to-kill solo character. Decent set, but it's a little bit too random for my tastes. If the bonuses that it gave were more consistent, or the timer to proc them a little shorter, I'd like it a little more. It's just a drunk, aggressive cousin of Daedric Trickery, so if you like Daedric Trickery, try this one out. The AoE debuffs are nice, as well as the major vulnerability, but the consistency or lack thereof kind of weakens the set's total ability and utilities. Kind of a fun set and may have uses in PvP, but not really worth the craft otherwise. We have better AoE damage proc sets, and interrupts are only useful in very specific situations, and usually you'll want a skill rather than a set for those situations. Could be fun to mess with, but not really worth it for much of anything else. This could be interesting on a support, as the major and minor buffs are a common thing to hand out, but it's a selfish set, meaning you're the only one benefiting. Probably decent for starting out on tanks, as it encourages you to learn your main role, but really not worth the 5-piece set. If it were less selfish, I'd be inclined to like it a little bit more. This is meant to be a tank set based on its bonuses, but the extra armor it gives is only so helpful. Because there's an armor cap, and most tanks are pretty close to that number already, the 7,779 armor it gives at gold is overkill on most characters. Granted, if you're not close to that cap and need the boost, this could do it, but most of the time you're better served wearing another set. Cool set overall, but requiring melee light attacks to proc means you either need to run daggers or play as a stamina DPS. Light attack damage buff is good, and the proc effect is cool, but the consecutive clause for the light attacks makes it harder to work into a normal build. Could be a fun set, but it's hard to work into a lot of normal setups. Also worth noting that it's a stun. Could be fun on a werewolf build that light attack spams. Interesting design, but there's not a ton of support for it right now. Most builds will get 2 stacks for the set, and you could theoretically build to have 3 stacks of this, but you'd be losing probably around 2 5-piece bonuses, and it's not enough of an additional boost to be worth that, especially since you would also be losing your monster set. If there were more 3-piece sets and ones that weren't specifically weapons and jewelry, I'd be more comfortable liking this set, but right now I'm just not sure it's worth it. So Spalder is a really good support set. It's worth it for trials. It may not be enough of a boost over a monster set like Symphony of Blades and Dungeons. It's an extra 2 to 3k DPS for your damage dealers on average, so it's up to you whether or not to run it. Note that much like Kinra's Wrath, the targeting is worse than a drunken Nord throwing snowballs, so you may not hit the entire trial group with only 2.